In a world that equates volume with power, the loudest person in the room is often the most desperate. Shouting is a biological admission of a lost cause. It is the sound of a nervous system that has been hijacked by a perceived threat. When you yell, you are signaling to the room that you have lost control of the situation, and more importantly, you have lost control of yourself. This is where the whisper effect becomes the ultimate tool of social dominance. By deliberately lowering your voice in a high-tension environment, you perform a status flip. You signal that you are the only one present who is not being governed by the chaos of the moment. You move from the position of the reactant to the position of authority. You are essentially stating, without uttering a single syllable of boast, that the storm around you does not move the mountain within you. The effectiveness of the whisper is rooted in biofeedback and evolutionary psychology. In the ancestral environment, a loud noise was a warning of an immediate external predator or sudden environmental disaster. But a low, calm, focused tone was a sign of a predator that was already on the hunt. When you drop your volume, you force everyone else to lean in. You command their active attention rather than their reactive fear. By making your words physically harder to hear, you paradoxically make them more valuable. You are communicating that your message is for those who are disciplined enough to listen, not for the masses who are distracted by the noise. You create a concentric circle of influence where you are the silent, immovable center. In the primal theater of the mind, the person who can afford to whisper in a crisis is the person who holds the most lethal leverage. This is the manifestation of vocal gravity. High-pitched, loud communication is the frequency of the prey, the frantic bleating of an animal cornered. Low-frequency, quiet communication is the resonance of the apex. When you lower your voice, you are tapping into an ancient neural pathway that associates depth and quietude with physical size and psychological stability. You are not begging for floor, you are owning the air. By refusing to compete in a volume war, you render the weapons of your opponent useless. They are swinging a sledgehammer at a shadow, exhausting themselves while you remain untouched, conserved, and terrifyingly efficient in your delivery. Lowering your voice triggers a neural reset in your audience. When someone is screaming at you, their amygdala is firing, looking for a fight or flight response. They are locked in a symmetric loop where they expect you to mirror their aggression. If you respond with a whisper, you deny them the feedback they crave. You break the circuit. Their brain is forced to switch from the emotional centers back to the analytical centers just to decode your words. In that moment of decoding, their aggression is neutralized. You have effectively hacked their nervous system, pulling them out of primal rage and back into a logical frame where you hold the upper hand. You aren't just winning an argument, you are rewiring the room's chemistry to favor your composure over their hysteria. This neural hijack creates a state of forced intimacy. To hear a whisper, one must close the psychological and physical distance. In a confrontation, this is a power move of the highest order. By forcing your antagonist to quiet their own internal noise to process your external signal, you are making them submissive to your pace. You are the conductor, and they are merely a frantic instrument trying to find the right key. The silence that follows a whisper is far heavier than the silence that follows a scream. It is pregnant with the implication that you know something they don't, or that you are prepared in ways they cannot fathom. From a sovereign perspective, the whisper is the ultimate display of outcome independence. The person who shouts is begging to be heard. They are seeking external validation of their power because they don't feel it internally. They are trying to fill the space because they are terrified of the void. The person who whispers knows that their words carry weight regardless of the volume. This is the gravity of the king. Think of the most powerful figures in history and cinema. They don't bark orders. They murmur them. A lower volume suggests a massive reservoir of untapped power hidden just beneath the surface. It implies that if you are this dangerous while quiet, there is no limit to what you are capable of if provoked. The whisper is a vocal shadow, a hint of the monster that you have successfully integrated and disciplined. This discipline is what Carl Jung referred to as shadow integration. A man who is incapable of being loud is not peaceful. He is merely harmless. But a man who is capable of a roar, yet chooses to whisper, is a master of himself. When you communicate from this place of integrated power, your voice carries a subharmonic of threat that the lizard brain of your opponent picks up instantly. They realize they are not arguing with a person, but with a disciplined force of nature. Your quietude is a testament to your preparation. You have nothing to prove, which is exactly why everyone feels the need to prove themselves to you. Strategically, the whisper effect acts as a selective filter. It weeds out the NPCs who can only respond to blunt, loud stimuli and speaks directly to the leaders and decision-makers in the room. In high-stakes negotiations, the one who remains the quietest holds an informational advantage. While the others are leaking data through their emotional outbursts, the whisperer is collecting it. You become a black hole of authority, absorbing the energy and secrets of others while reflecting nothing back but calm, calculated intent. You aren't just participating in the conversation. You are dictating the frequency on which it occurs. You are filtering for intelligence, as only the intelligent have the patience to listen for the quiet truth. Furthermore, the whisper allows for plausible deniability and psychological maneuvering. A shouted threat is a legal and social liability. A whispered truth is a haunting suggestion. By keeping your volume low, you maintain the high ground. You are never the one who lost it. You are the one who remained reasonable while the other party disintegrated. This gives you the moral and social leverage in any aftermath. You can walk away from a heated exchange with your dignity intact, while your opponent is left shaking, exhausted by their own unnecessary expenditure of energy. You have won the war of attrition without ever drawing your sword. Ultimately, mastering the whisper effect requires you to overcome the validation reflex. You must resist the urge to meet fire with fire. To whisper in a room of shouters is an act of social martial arts. You are using their own momentum to trip them. You replace the shallow, temporary dominance of the loudest voice with the permanent, unshakable authority of the internal locus of control. You build a kingdom of silence that is more intimidating than any roar. When you finally speak, the world stops to listen not because you are loud, but because you are certain. You realize that the quietest person in the room is usually the one who owns it. This is a transition from performance to presence. The world is full of performers, people acting out the role of boss, leader, or tough guy. But presence cannot be faked. Presence is the byproduct of a quiet mind. When you whisper, you are projecting that your mind is still, even if the world is on fire. You are telling the collective that you are the captain of your soul. By the time the shouters realize they have been outmaneuvered, you have already moved on to the next objective. You are not just a voice, you are an atmosphere. And in your atmosphere, only the quietest and the strongest survive.